Welcome back to Be Fluent in English. Today, we are traveling back in time. We are going to the year 1769. A baby was born on a small island called Corsica. His name was Napoleon Bonaparte. Nobody knew that this boy would one day control almost all of Europe. Many people think Napoleon was just a soldier, but he was much more. He was a strategist, a leader, and a man of extreme ambition. In this video, we will learn English through the incredible story of his life. We will talk about his rise to power, his genius on the battlefield, and his final days in exile. If you want to improve your listening and learn about history, this video is for you. Let's begin the journey of the little corporal. Napoleon was not born into a rich or powerful family. He went to a military school in France. At that time, he didn't even speak French perfectly. He had an accent. Other students laughed at him. But Napoleon didn't care. He studied harder than everyone else. He loved history and mathematics. In English, we say he was a bookworm. When the French Revolution began in 1789, the world turned upside down. This was Napoleon's big chance. He was a young officer, and he showed incredible bravery at the siege of Toulon. Because of his success, he became a general at only 24 years old. Can you imagine that? A general at 24. This shows us that opportunity favors the prepared mind. What made Napoleon special? It was his brain. On the battlefield, he could see things that others could not. He moved his soldiers very fast. He surprised his enemies. He won famous battles in Italy and Egypt. People started to talk about him everywhere. He became a hero to the French people. But Napoleon was not just a soldier, he was a politician too. In 1799, he took control of the French government. He became the first consul. He promised order and peace after the chaos of the revolution. The people trusted him. They wanted a strong leader. In 1804, Napoleon did something very dramatic. He invited the Pope to Paris. In a famous ceremony, he took the crown and placed it on his own head. He became the Emperor of the French. This was a message to the world. I made myself king. No one gave this to me. During this time, he created the Napoleonic Code. This was a set of laws that changed Europe forever. It talked about religious freedom and equality before the law. Even today, many countries use laws based on Napoleon's ideas. He was building a legacy. A legacy is something you leave behind for the future. Napoleon wanted more. He wanted a grand empire. For 10 years, France was almost constantly at war. This period is known as the Napoleonic Wars. He defeated the Austrians, the Prussians, and the Russians. He put his brothers and sisters on the thrones of other countries. Spain, Holland, and parts of Italy were all under his control. At this moment, Napoleon was the most powerful man on earth, but power can be dangerous. In English, we have a saying, the higher you climb, the harder you fall. Every great story has a turning point. For Napoleon, it was the year 1812. He decided to invade Russia with a massive army of 600,000 men. He reached Moscow, but the city was empty and burning. Then, the Russian winter arrived. It was freezing. There was no food. Napoleon had to retreat. This retreat was a disaster. Thousands of soldiers died from the cold and hunger. Only a small part of his army returned home. The invincible Napoleon was finally defeated. After the disaster in Russia, Napoleon's enemies joined together. They captured Paris in 1814. Napoleon was forced to give up his throne. They sent him to a small island called Elba. They thought his story was over, but they were wrong. After less than a year, Napoleon escaped. he landed in France with a small group of men. When the king's soldiers came to arrest him, Napoleon stood before them. He opened his coat and said, "If there is any soldier who wants to kill his emperor, here I am." Instead of shooting him, they shouted, "Long live the emperor!" This was the beginning of the 100 Days. Napoleon was back, but the world was no longer afraid. Europe formed a massive alliance to stop him once and for all. The date was June 18, 1815. The place was Waterloo. It was a day of mud, blood, and thunder. Napoleon faced the Duke of Wellington and the Prussian army. He fought with everything he had. He used his famous Imperial Guard. But the ground was wet, and his timing was off. By the end of the day, Napoleon realized it was over. The French army retreated in chaos. This was the final curtain for the man who once owned Europe. In English, when we say someone has met their Waterloo, it means they have faced a final, permanent defeat that they cannot recover from. His era of glory had ended in the mud of Belgium. This time, his enemies wanted to make sure he could never escape again. They didn't send him to Elba, they sent him to St. Helena. Imagine a tiny, volcanic rock in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It was thousands of miles away from France. Napoleon lived in a small house called Longwood. He was surrounded by British guards 24 hours a day. The man who used to command millions was now a prisoner of silence. He spent his days walking in the wind and talking to the clouds. He spent 6 long, lonely years there. He spent his time writing his memoirs, trying to explain his life to history. He said, "My true glory is not in the 40 battles I won, but in my civil code." He died in 1821, at the age of only 51. The eagle was finally dead, but the mystery of his death lives on. Some say it was cancer, some say it was poison. Why do we still remember Napoleon 200 years later? It is because his life is the ultimate human story. He proved that a boy from a small island could become an emperor through pure will. He changed the borders of countries and the laws of the world. Even today, when you walk through Paris, you see his shadow everywhere, in the monuments, in the museums, and in the laws. His story is a lesson in ambition and hubris. It shows us that a person can reach the stars, but if they fly too high, they might burn. Napoleon was a genius, a conqueror, and a tragic hero. When you learn English through a story like this, you connect with the soul of history. You don't just learn words, you learn about the fire that drives human beings to greatness. Napoleon's life is finished, but his legend is immortal. Let's look at some important words from today's story. Ambition, a strong desire to achieve something. Strategist, a person skilled in planning. Exile, being forced to live away from your home country. Invincible, too powerful to be defeated. Legacy, something handed down from the past. Thank you for listening to the story of Napoleon Bonaparte on Be Fluent in English. History is the best teacher for language. It gives us context, emotion, and great vocabulary. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Comment below. Do you think Napoleon was a hero or a villain? Keep listening, keep learning, and stay magnetic. See you in the next video.